The kids today, you know what I'm saying? We got nighttime spooks, man. We got Blockbuster horror stories. For those kids that don't know, Blockbuster is basically Redbox. It's Redbox, but Blockbuster used to have like, let's just say GameStop. You know how GameStop be having all of the games and shit. It used to be movies on one side, like horror and all that different genres, like a whole lot of movies. Then it used to be like games and shit. You could rent out games for a couple of days and bring them back. They need to bring Blockbuster back though. Well, it won't be no use for it, but yeah, that's what basically Blockbuster is. Okay, for y'all, some of y'all, you know what I'm saying, y'all kids think y'all know, y'all heard of it before, but y'all ain't never, you know what I'm saying, just live through that. You feel me? Anyway.
Most of you probably remember Blockbuster Video. If you don't, it was a movie rental store where you could go to rent or buy DVDs or video games.
Yeah.
This was before streaming services were around. When I was a kid, we would often have movie night at our house on Saturdays. Sometimes we would go out to the movies, or other times we would watch one on a DVD that we had. We would also rent movies from Blockbuster quite a bit, which I always loved to do. One Saturday, my parents asked me and my sister if we wanted to rent a movie for the night. At the time, I was 12 and my sister was 14. We both said yes, and then we had a debate about which movie we wanted to rent. This was back in probably like 2005, and I remember that we finally decided on a movie. We lived in a really cool neighborhood. There were lots of houses and neighbors, and about a mile away there was a bunch of businesses. One of the businesses within walking distance from us was a Blockbuster Video. I offered to go to rent the movie because I wanted to. I felt cool going all by myself to the store and getting something. My parents said that I could, but not to go anywhere else, and they gave me some money. I left and then walked there, which took me roughly 20 minutes. I walked through our neighborhood, and then to a slightly busier street through a park, and then I was basically there. When I arrived at Blockbuster Video, it was sometime in the late afternoon. It was kind of busy, which it often would be. I walked around to find the movie, which I honestly can't remember exactly what movie it was that night. It took me a little bit to locate the movie, and I remember that I was walking around the store for a while. But I found the movie.
Yeah, see, I know I want tripping. They had like different genres. You just pick what movie you want to watch.
I walked over to the counter to check out. They also used to have little candy and popcorn like at the movies, and my parents gave me enough money to get some candy as well. When I checked out, I got my items and then left the store to head home. I walked the same route back that I had taken there, and I remember that it was when I crossed over to enter the park. That's when I noticed there was a guy walking a ways behind me. I hadn't seen him directly, but like out of my side vision. I walked through the park, and then to the sidewalk, and he continued to follow me. When I made it to our street, I turned around briefly and noticed that he was still there. Now I was kind of worried. He was still a ways behind me, probably like 50 feet back. I didn't recognize the guy at all, and all I could tell that he was on the heavier side. And I remember that he was wearing a cap. I had maybe 2 or 3 more minutes before I would reach our house, and I was just hoping that the guy wouldn't speed up and get closer to me. But as I went on, he did. Finally, I made it to our house. The guy was only about 20 feet behind me when I made it. I walked up the driveway, and he walked past the house, but I did notice he seemed to slow down and look at me as he did. I got inside quickly and felt really glad that I was safe at home now. Not too long after that, maybe 20 minutes or so, my mom asked me to go water her flowers out in the front yard, as she was busy helping my dad prepare dinner. I went outside into the front yard, and that's when I noticed the guy was there again. He was standing on the street, like right in front of our yard, but at the end.
Talk about Halloween shit he on.
I saw him notice me, and I tried to just water the plants without paying too much attention to the guy. I started at the end of the yard farthest away from him, and slowly worked my way to the other end. The whole time I did, the guy just stayed there. I wanted him to leave, and I was hoping he would, but when I was finally at the end closest to him, I heard him start to walk, but he wasn't walking away. I realized he was walking into our front yard. I turned around to see him about 5 feet into the yard.
And what killed me with this story, why the fuck you went and told your parents that? See, when I had my kids, I want them to tell me every motherfucking thing. So a motherfucker like this, I would have gladly took my ass out to the road to see what his problem was. Damn, my bad.
Without wasting any time, I sprinted back around to the front yard and went back inside. I looked back out, and the guy was now gone. I was hoping that he would be gone for good now. I had no idea what that creep wanted. After I was back inside, I turned on the TV to wait for dinner to be ready. Maybe 10 minutes later or so, I glanced out the window again. The man was back. This time, he was standing maybe 10 feet away from the window in the front yard, and he was walking closer. He saw me through the window, and I ran out to the kitchen where my parents were. I told him there was a creepy guy in the front yard and that he had followed me home. They both walked into the living room, and the guy was actually still there. My dad went outside after him. I heard him shouting at the guy, and we watched from the window as my dad ran all the way out into the street. The man just barely got away. We were all pretty confident, though, that he wouldn't come back, and thankfully, he didn't. I still can't believe the nerve that guy had to be such a creep. I thought originally that I was just being paranoid when he was seemingly following me home, but I was wrong.
I blew my damn nose. Hey, fair boy. Hold on.
I used to work at a Blockbuster video store many years ago. When I had the job, I was about 18 years old. My main job was working as a cashier, and typically there would be about 2 or 3 of us working at once. I liked all of my coworkers and was friends with most of them. One night, I was working with Lisa, who was my same age, and we had gone to the same high school. We closed at 8 p.m. on weeknights and 9 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. This was a weeknight, and it had been a pretty quiet day. For the last hour or so of our shift, we only got one customer. Both myself and Lisa were tired from the long day, and we were excited to go home. When it got to be 7:50 p.m., we decided to just close early. Now, we weren't really supposed to do this, and we were supposed to stay open until 8, which was our official hours, but we didn't think anybody else was going to come in. I went over and looked out into the small parking lot and made sure nobody else was there. It was just my car out there, because Lisa had gotten a ride there, and I was going to be giving her a ride home. I locked up the doors, and then we waited until 7:55 to clock out and actually leave. We had already done the cleaning that we were supposed to do and made sure that everything was in order. The store wasn't all that big, and it was pretty easy to maintain when there weren't too many customers. When it was 7:55, Lisa and I left the store and headed for my car. We got inside my car and drove through the parking lot to a larger connected parking lot. Then we would take the exit onto one of the main roads. But as soon as we got into the bigger parking lot, I noticed that another car was pulling into the Blockbuster lot. The car drove right up to the side of the building in front of the door and then stopped. I stopped the car because I was curious to see if the people were going to try to get inside. Maybe they were just going to return something, is what I figured. We watched the car stop, and then all of the passengers' doors opened and 3 men got out. They walked up to the front doors and seemingly tried to go inside. I felt kind of guilty because the time was only 9:57 now, and technically we were still supposed to be open, but we had left a little bit early. But at the same time, going to a store 3 minutes before they close is a bit risky as well.
Yeah.
The men stood around the door for about 30 seconds or so. The car had driven a little ways up, and then the men turned to go back to the car. When they turned around is when I noticed that they were all wearing ski masks. We were kind of far away, and from the back, it looked like they were just wearing...
They finna rob y'all ass. It wasn't COVID back then. It wasn't COVID back then. They finna rob y'all motherfucking ass. No cap.
Hats or sweatshirts with hoods. They all returned to the car, and then the car began to drive away immediately. Lisa and I couldn't believe what we had seen. Had those men been trying to get inside and rob the store? Why else would they go there with ski masks on? Suddenly, we were both really happy that we had closed early and left. Maybe we narrowly avoided a disaster. Of course, we didn't know for sure, but it seemed pretty likely. The next week, Lisa and I found ourselves working together on another weeknight. This night had been a little bit busier, and we were occupied pretty much right up until close. The thought of closing early hadn't even came into our minds. It was finally just before 8 p.m. and the time to get ready to close. We hadn't had any customers in maybe 10 minutes at that time. That's when I went to look out the front doors, and when I did, I noticed a car driving up, and I got a bad feeling for some reason. That's when I realized that it was the same car that we had seen the previous week. I scrambled to lock the doors as quickly as I could. The car casually drove into the parking lot, and then up to the side of the building. It got closer, and I just barely got the doors locked before the car pulled right out front. I jumped back and then hid behind a display before they would see me. I told Lisa that the same car was here from the previous week. She asked if we should call the police. We decided to wait and see if they had ski masks on again. Sure enough, they did. 3 men got out and walked right up to the front door. They tried opening it, but it was locked. I was hoping that they wouldn't be able to see me. Lisa ducked down behind the counter. I looked at my watch, and the time was 8:54. Then, one of the guys knocked on the front door. I heard somebody say, "I know you're in there. Let us in." I started to feel really scared then.
Oh, shit.
They must have seen our cars parked right out front, or possibly had seen me as they drove up. I knew that I wasn't going to open the door for them, though. Then, one of the guys said, "Open the door or we'll have to smash it." Lisa was near the phone,
Come on.
I hoped that she would call the police.
What Lisa
I didn't
do?
want to yell out to her, or I would give away my position.
What Lisa do?
I tried to crawl from the display that I was
What
hiding
Lisa
behind
do?
into one of the aisles, but to do so, I might be partially in view of the men. I sat there for a few seconds before finally jumping to the aisle. When I did, I heard one of the men say, "I see you." I ran through the back of the aisle, and I heard Lisa say that she had called the police. One of the men started to then bang on the door as if to try to break it. I ran through the aisles and eventually made my way to the counter where Lisa was hiding. Then I got behind it with her and we both took cover.
And then you gotta think about it too. Blockbuster used to make some money back in the day. Like new movies that come out, like new movies that I know. I remember some movies. Let's say Fast and Furious 10 just came out. Boom. It'll do that, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, it'll be at Blockbuster. That's how it used to be. So of course, Blockbuster, and they used to sell games, not consoles, but games, like newer games that just came out. Yeah, but you have to buy them bitches though. Then if you don't pay them motherfucker, they gonna keep swiping that goddamn card too, just like Redbox.
The police would arrive any minute, and we just had to wait then.
They ain't got
The men stopped banging on the door and stayed there for a few more minutes. At last, I heard a siren in the distance, and then the sound of the men scrambling to get back in their car. We heard a screeching of tires, and then the car drive away. And not long after that at all, the police were there. We told them a description of the car and everything that had happened. It didn't take long for the police to catch up to the men in ski masks. I don't believe they got in too much trouble though, because they didn't actually break in, but just threatened to. But it was pretty obvious what their intentions were. Luckily, they never came back after that.
I gotta get me another cash out card. For real.
This happened back when I was 10. For as long ago as it was, I remember it really well. I went with my brother and dad to Blockbuster Video one night. We were there to return one video and then get another one, I believe. When we got there, we returned the one movie first, and then we went to find a new one to rent. The store was pretty busy, and quite a few other people were there looking around. We walked through a few aisles and then stopped in one where there were a few different interesting movies. My brother and dad were interested in a couple of them, and I saw something that caught my eye a little ways away. It was across to another aisle, and I walked over there to look. I got kind of curious on my own and went down another aisle then. I planned on returning within like a minute to my dad and brother, and when I turned around, some guy was standing there and he said hi to me. I didn't know who the guy was, and I had never seen him before. I was wondering why he was saying hi to me, but I just said hi back to him to be nice. Then he started asking me a bunch of questions, like what movies I liked and if I found something good. He just seemed friendly at first, and I answered his first couple of questions, but then the guy didn't want to seem to leave me alone. Eventually, I got kind of annoyed and said that I needed to get back to my dad and brother. The guy then stopped talking to me, and I walked away. A short time after that, I found my dad and brother again.
I ain't gonna lie. It was strange, motherfucker. I don't know. Like y'all gotta know me in person. You feel me? Y'all gotta know me in person. Like if I don't know you, and you just keep on talking to me, you know what I'm saying? Okay, yeah. We can talk for a little bit. But you keep on talking. Obviously, I'm gonna walk off. Like, and then that crazy thing, you ain't gonna even know I walked off. I'm gonna just walk off so smooth.
And we looked for a few more minutes.
At
one point, I saw the guy looking at me from across the store again. He seemed kind of weird. We found a movie and then checked out and left. I then forgot all about the weird guy. We drove home, and we lived pretty close to the Blockbuster, and back then, There were Blockbusters at seemingly every corner. It took less than 5 minutes to get back home, and we weren't planning on watching the movie that we had gotten that night, but I think the next night. Anyways, I don't remember exactly what I did for the rest of the night, but I went to bed later. I think it was a Saturday the next day, so I didn't have school and I was staying up a little bit later. I finally got tired and went to bed. That's when I saw a man come into view of my bedroom window. The man was the same guy who had spoken to me at Blockbuster. He was right up against the window now, and he smiled at me in the creepiest way imaginable. Then, he held up his fist and knocked on my window. I jumped back and hid underneath my bed. That was the first thing that I could think to do. As I hid there, I heard the guy keep knocking. I'm not sure why, but I didn't want to move or say anything.
Shit.
This went on for I don't even know how long. Maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. That's when I heard my brother coming from down the hallway. His bedroom was across from mine, and he then opened my door and asked what the knocking noise was. That's when he saw the guy at my window and me hiding under my bed. My brother yelled something like, "Who is that?" That's when I was finally able to get out from under my bed and look again. I looked just in time to see the guy now moving away from the window and leaving. My brother then ran to the window to look out of it. I followed him because I wasn't as scared anymore. We both saw the guy run off down the street. Then we went to wake up our parents, who got up and went outside, but the guy never came back. I never did see him again, which I'm happy about. We did go back to that Blockbuster many more times, and thankfully nothing else weird happened.
Yeah. With that story, I felt like that dude, the older brother, should have smoked. Went out there and smoked and told the daddy, you know what I'm saying? Somebody trying to break, you know what I'm saying? And daddy would have got their ass. So it's certain shit you gotta just do, you know what I'm saying, silent with. Nighttime spooky. I don't know, this is the first time I reacted to you. I think it is. Damn sure will. He got a lot of goddamn stories. Oh no, he got the video he got. Oh, he got a lot of videos. Oh yeah, he locked in. I'm finna do a lot more videos with him. That being said, man, give me your thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. See how motherfuckers on that video. Let's ride, nigga. And hit my social media for more requested videos.